Well, yes, coming up there, and he'll come on later on in the show and show you how you can get the book and all the information pertaining to the book, even across the seas. At least the last time we spoke about that. But anyway, he will have all of the latest information where you can obtain the book, and you should obtain the book. So let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
All right, and again, as usual, how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are still learning. Okay, for today's show, October the 31st, 2018, and I think one of the callers for pointing that out, that we should give that information out, the date of the show. That clears up a lot of things. Today we're going to talk about pre-existing conditions in the system of white supremacy, racism. Now, to start it off, I'm going to read what pre-existing conditions is. Is a health problem like asthma, diabetes, or cancer you had before the date that the new health coverage starts. Insurance companies can't refuse to cover treatment for your pre-existing condition or charge you more. And as you well know, if you've been listening to the news, that's one of the things that they're trying to come against and make that non-effect, but we will get into that. But we're going to talk about the precondition. We're going to talk about the preconditioning of racism in the system of white supremacy, racism. Mr. Fuller, you believe that the Creator created the universe. Would that be correct?
Yes, I believe that something created the universe. A lot of people have different terms that are used. God, the Great Spirit, Allah, Jehovah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are different terms that refer to what we say is whatever made everything that we're looking at. Everything that we look at, everything that we think. I mean, the minds of people, all the creatures, all the insects, something, someone, a committee, the wind, might have been the creator. I mean, some people think that the wind, the air, that is the origin of creation. Or some say space itself is the origin of creation, of everything that we're looking at and whatnot. But then the question is raised by scholars and theologians down through the ages, okay, if you say that space created everything that is not in the form of a person, well, what created space? See, so a little boy once asked his mother, so I've been told, I think it was an advertisement back in the 1940s, and the little boy asked his mother, God, who made me? I mean, a mother, who made me? Asking his mother that. Mother, who made me? And the mother responded, well, God made you, of course. And the little boy thought for a minute, like, infants do, children, they have a lot of questions. So he thought for a minute and said, who made God? And it just hung there. It's been hanging there ever since. Or even before then, before that question is raised. But that is a question, okay? But some theologians will say, oh, God made himself, all right? Then people start arguing about that. So now that's why you have what? Right down to this day, on 2018, people arguing, not only arguing, people killing each other about what God is all about. All right? On a wholesale basis. And that has been ever since every religion has been established. according to recorded history.
Okay.
So that question is still hanging out there. I mean, because the minute somebody starts talking about it, they go back and forth in what you might call civil discourse. They go back and forth, they talk about it, and then the talk becomes heated, and then the talk goes from conversation to what? Argument. And then the argument goes from just that argument into the next logical step, fighting. And then the fighting goes to what? Killing.
Okay.
And people have been killing each other about religion as long as there's been religions. When whatever, person had the first disagreement about what things meant, about what God meant, what God's intentions are, and who is supposed to represent God in the best manner, and who is not, and who's qualified, and all this, back and forth, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of different religions on the planet Earth right now, and sometimes they kind of shake hands and say we'll tolerate each other, and then sometimes they don't.
Okay. Now, for the sake of this conversation, and I read what the pre-existing meant according to Webster and according to the definitions that the medical community has founded along with the insurance community, but we're going to put it over into to today's conversation. The question came up that if the Creator created everything that has been created, then you would have to assume that pre-existing was also created. Would that be a correct assumption in your opinion?
Yes, it comes down to what was here before nothing was here.
Yes, exactly. What was here before? Yes, very, very good. Okay.
And then it comes down to a question of who invented nothing.
Exactly.
Because in order to get something, you first have to have nothing.
You have to have
to
nothing.
Put the something in.
Mm-hmm.
Like the inside of a cup.
So when you and I, or when you, and of course you're a little bit before me and others that were before you, this racism was already in existence. So in a sense, you could say that it was pre-existent, at least before us. But if you examine what has been recorded in history, it was there before then. Is that correct?
Now, the question is, what now? That we had a pre-existing
racism
condition?
was already here before you got here. Before I got...
Oh, yeah, the record shows that.
Yes.
That's an easy one. Yes, sir. The record shows that racism, there's nobody on the planet now that was here at the beginning of racism according to every recorded record.
Yes.
I mean, just about everybody will agree on that. Racism was here. All of the people who are on the planet now, they came here after racism had been invented.
So then it would be...
Racism goes back much farther than, you don't have very many people on the planet, I think, who are 200 or 300 years old. I don't know of anybody who is, say, 300 years old, and that's just a short period of time when you start talking about racism.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say racism existed as far back as anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 years.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Some people stretch it just that far. Some of the modern historians said, no, it's a recent phenomenon. It's something like anywhere from 400 to 600 years. That's the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have racism before then.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an argument just like religion.
Okay.
It just goes on and on and on and on. But there's nobody on the planet, even if you use the 600-year limit, the minimum, there's nobody that I know of who's 600 years old. That
Yes.
I know of.
Yes.
That might be somebody 600 years old that's walking around here having ice cream sodas and whatnot. But I don't know of no such person.
Okay. So then, according to all that we know, that racism could be also classified as a pre-existing condition. Would that be correct?
Oh, absolutely. Pre-existing, yeah, sure. It exists now, and it existed pre to my coming here on the planet Earth. It was certainly here when I got here because people told me about it, and the people who told me about it had to be here before me. So I'm a witness to that myself.
Okay.
It's a pre-existing condition when it comes to Neely Fuller, for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right, because somebody told me when I got here. I didn't know.
And you have...
And they said, hey, you're classified as colored, you know. They told me that. Somebody told me that or somewhere along the way. And I said, well, okay, you know, I look like I got a lot of classifications here. I'm a male, and I'm a person, and people are putting these labels on me. I don't know what I am. I'm just a babe in a crib.
Yes, sir.
So people are telling me these things.
Yes, sir.
I'm a person, and then I'm a male person, and then I'm a baby person, all right? Then later on they say you're also a colored person. You're a Negro. And I say, okay, well, what's that? And they say, oh, well, that's something to be despised. That's something to kick around. And I say, well, me? I'm something to be despised? To be kicked around? Yep. Well, who said so?
Yes.
Well, the people who got power to say so. Well, who are these people?
Who are those? Those people.
And on and on and on. But it was a pre-existent condition.
Yes.
Sure. And it exists now. It's never gone away.
Right.
And that's why I'm on the air today, because I am trying to deal with this pre-existent condition.
Yes. So with all that being said, I know that your attempts have been to have people read a book, or a code has to be established so that we can attack the problem, or if that's the word, to make us aware of it and do something about it. That something is to eliminate that. Would that be correct?
Sure. Right. And eliminate anything that shouldn't exist. There's no logical reason why racism should exist. It serves no constructive purpose as far as interactions between people. Now, racism is an excellent means of getting things done. Oh, when you have a whole horde of people that you can just crack a whip and make them do things, and you, by trial and error, you find out how to do things and make them make the sacrifices in getting these things done, you can get a lot done through the process of a thing called racism, through that process. Or you might say even royalism, which is what racism is based on. Some people are just, what you might say, chosen to tell other people what to do. Doesn't make any difference whether it's correct or incorrect. And when the person who is cracking the whip, you might say, makes mistakes in getting things done, getting the food produced, getting buildings put up, getting ships being built and all like that, when they make mistakes and the ships sink, well, they just order up another bunch of people and say, well, hey, that didn't work, but we got plenty of people here that we can use to make some more ships until we finally get it just like we want it. But I'm not making any sacrifices. I'm doing all the thinking, but I'm not sacrificing myself. But I'll sacrifice all these other people in producing this and that and the other. And that's all royalism basically has been traditionally, emperorship and all that, the kings and queens that have gone before. And when that was put on a color basis, it was called racism. But it's the same format as what a lot of people have rebelled against, and that is the king or the emperor that just kept on mistreating people and people couldn't stand it no more. But racism has taken root so that you have, based on color and non-color, a whole lot of kings and queens. Under the system of white supremacy, every person classified as white became royal. Okay? So that spread like wildfire because no royalist system had ever been thought up that had that kind of impact that spreads. I mean, in such a short period of time. It used to be you just had one or two kings and queens, but when someone thought up the idea of saying, hey, why not make every person classified as white a king or a queen? If it's a female, it's a female queen, if she's white. If it's a male, it's a male king, if he's white. Let's try that on for size and see how it works.
Why did they do that?
That spread rapidly.
Okay.
And when it spread more, that doctrine spread faster than any religious doctrine. Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Confucianism, no religion spread as fast as that. The religion of white supremacy.
For what purpose?
And the supreme religion, and even to this day,
okay,
2018, it's the greatest religion and political system ever thought up in the minds of people.
Okay.
It's the most powerful. And the most efficient.
Okay. For what purpose? Why do that? What's the reason to do something like that?
Oh, for fun, for glory, and for material comfort, which is what all royalism is about, which is what every person really wants. Every person likes fun. Every person. It takes different forms, but every person likes to have fun. F-U-N. Right, let's have some fun. Where's the fun? All right.
But the purpose...
Every person likes glory.
Yes.
I mean, likes to be appreciated. That's what glory is. People, when they look at you, they say, hey, I think well of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, how many people can I get to think well of me? All right. Well, here comes some more down the road, and they say they think well of you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I like that. See what I mean? Hey, bring on some more. Is anybody else out there that thinks well of me? Bring them on in here,
Yes.
And I get pumped up, okay? And then, but with that, you add that third thing, material comfort, all right? Oh, these people who think well of me are going to bring me nice things. Oh, yeah, that's an added bonus.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, I might not even have to work, okay? I mean, because now I'm becoming royal, okay? If I get enough fun and enough glory from people who think well of me, I'm going to get material comfort. So everybody likes that. So when that thing about racism caught on, and you told a white person, hey, now you're white. You're not just a baby. I mean, like everybody else. You're a white baby. You're into a world where white supremacy is the government of the entire world. And the baby says, what are you talking about? White supremacy? What's that? Say, well, we'll coach you along as you get older. By the time you're 15 years old, you'll know what it means to be white. And that there's lots of benefits, fun, glory, and material comfort that goes with that. And so, hey, who wouldn't turn that down? I mean, who would turn that down, rather? I mean, when you're told that right from birth, you say, well, but is anybody suffering as a result of this? Oh, yeah, a whole bunch of people suffer. I mean, it's bad. I mean, if you're not white, it's awful. All right? You say, well, hey, I don't want to be in no awful position. So if I happen to be fortunate enough to be born into the royal family of whiteness, why turn it down? This is why a lot of white people in 2018, hey, they say, hey, we'd like to help black people, but doggone, if it means giving up my royal position and being, equal, I mean, hey, equal is not royal. No. Nobody's equal to the king or the queen. No, it doesn't work like that, buddy. And if you happen not to have been royal, I mean, shame on you. I mean, just one of those things. Don't blame me.
Okay. TalkTimeRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics. And here's one that I'm going to share with you, and it's Wiggins world of wellness. The show to me is kind of similar to what this is Libby has to talk about, but Stacy Wiggins just breaks it down again, holistic living, ideas, thoughts, exercise, breaks it all down. You should give it a listen. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is go to talktainmentradio.com, click on programs for the scheduled times, and a little bio information on him. Talktainmentradio.com, that's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are talking about pre-existing conditions, and in particular, racism. Did the Creator create it, and for what purpose? Now, Mr. Fuller, you had just mentioned something about the Royals, and this is supposed to be fun, I guess, for them, but for those that are being mistreated, it's not fun. Not at all. So what do we do about that?
You replace it with a system called justice. But now justice in the system of white supremacy, in my opinion, was never clearly defined. I asked someone in 1994, I said, what's the legal definition for justice in what they call the Western Hemisphere? And I was told whatever Supreme Court judges say that it is. I had never asked that question before. I said, oh, okay, but Supreme Court judges change, and they change their minds. I said, so justice changes? And then I wrote a quote in the that I made up in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. I said, laws change, but justice remains the same. So having taken that position, I invented a term in 1994 for justice, and I think it will stand the test of time. And it consists of two parts. Justice, part one, is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. In part two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. The most constructive help in what? In everything. In all of the areas of activity. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And I underline the term, most constructive help in all of these areas of activity. Everyone must be guaranteed that. There's no such thing as having justice and you're going to leave somebody out. There's no such thing as justice for some and injustice for others. That's not logical. That doesn't make sense. And I've heard people even use that expression. In order for there to be justice for some, there must be injustice for somebody out there. No, you don't mistreat anybody, all right? That's why that first requirement is there. Number one, you got to guarantee that nobody's mistreated. I mean, and then you say, well, you mistreat a few people in order for, the other people to be able to do well. No, you don't mistreat anybody. You got to slow everything down and figure out how to go about doing what you got to do without mistreating anyone. You mistreat one person, justice is gone. It's out the window.
Wow. One person.
One person. One person anywhere on this planet. Justice is balance between people. Perfect balance. You got to get that. Now, it has never existed in recorded history, but that should be the goal. Anything short of that is woefully inadequate and totally unsatisfactory. Nobody should be satisfied with that. But we just breeze right along and say, oh, well, come see, come saw. I mean, things happen and all like that. No, and then claim that you got justice. No, you haven't. It's never been in recorded history a situation where nobody was mistreated and everybody who needed constructive help got it. There's no history book that would tell you that. And if I run across one, I won't believe it.
Why?
Because I just won't believe it, because I just don't think that it's ever been really seriously considered. Because the standard for justice has always been low. In fact, the dictionary says what? Justice, it gives words like what? Just look in any dictionary. You'll see the word fair in most of them. Well, fair is also synonymous with white. So are you saying you got to be white to get justice?
Good question.
Fair lady? White lady.
Yeah, My Fair Lady. Yeah, there was a play called that, My Fair Lady.
Yeah, I mean, that word fair doesn't even spell like the word justice. Fair is F-A-I-R. Justice is J-U-S-T-I-C-E. How did that word fair get in there?
Good
See
question.
what I mean?
Yes, sir.
You know, you have to pay attention to words. And I have that in the word.
Yes, you
Raise
do.
questions about that.
Okay, talktainmentradio.com. We are discussing the term pre-existing conditions in particular, or as it in regards to racism in the system of white supremacy racism. And Mr. Fuller has the first half hour has given examples and his what is pre-existing conditions. We're going to take a phone call right now, so let's go to the phone call. Okay, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning. This is James calling from North Carolina. Mr. Fuller, have you taken steps to try to record all of your broadcasts so that people in the future will be able to go back and retrieve information that you provided to help end the problem of racism and white supremacy?
No, I haven't taken steps to do that. I didn't start out doing that because, for one thing, I wanted to de-emphasize the cult of personality. I started out telling people that for what I'm trying to do, you know, it works for some people for what they're saying, but for what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to direct people to cause and effect. The laws of the universe that was here before I got here. Cause and effect. That's all it is. You have a cause for something. Something causes something to happen. And then you have an effect that results from that cause. And so all I try to do with everything that I'm writing and everything that I'm saying is direct people to universal laws. I mean, of what works best and what doesn't. In other words, what's constructive and what's not. There's no such thing as in between. And this is a very simple formula. It's just like mathematics. Mathematics was here before I got here. I got here through mathematics. Okay? So it's not Neely Fuller. I'm trying to get people in the habit of looking at the world. If they were just here on the planet as an individual, by yourself, like I understand at one time it was. It was just one person on the entire planet. One person by himself. I understand it was a male. And then later on a female was added, according to Christian theology, I have been told. But that meant that they had to function every day with nobody else because there's nobody else here. So everything that I have written, I've directed it to the individual person. Because if the individual person is in tune with the laws of the universe, then problems can be solved just like that. Each individual person has a code that you follow, because if a person is going to get the correct results out of his or her environment, that's all you have to do. So it eliminates that thing of having, well, hey, I got to check with Neely Fuller and see. You know, I got to check with this person. I got to check with that person in order to be able to breathe. No. Whatever created you, created everything around you. But you have to be able to interpret everything around you in order to get the best results that will be compatible with you as a person. That's all it is. And it's a code for doing that. A code just means a way of getting things done in the best possible manner. Or, if you have ill intent, in the worst possible manner, like the white supremacists do. All right? So, I came up with what I call the compensatory code. And so it de-emphasizes, by emphasizing the importance of the individual person, but not the individual person as a leader for everybody else. See, I'm trying to direct people's attention to what is really already here.
Okay.
It was here when I got here.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody called me yesterday and said, Fuller, how did you come up with these things? I said, by just looking at what's right in front of me and trying to interpret it for what it really is, rather than what somebody says that it is. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Yes.
And if everybody does that, filter out all the noise and separate the noise from the music, all right, of existence on this planet, then every person becomes a powerful person, which is exactly, I call it the universal man and universal woman principle, which is, I say, that since the white supremacists don't seem to be interested in producing universal man and universal woman, they're just interested in having racist man and racist woman, and that's as far as anything is ever going to go, then that stultifies everybody else's growth.
Okay.
Because they put a cap on that. So the whole idea is the individual is supposed to be able to function anywhere in the universe with maximum efficiency.
All righty.
I think that's a beautiful idea.
All right.
That is the essence of beauty.
877-932-9766 is the number that you can call, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. Going to the Gmails, Brother Thompson wrote this, Mr. Fuller. He says, Mr. Fuller, the white man's anus, you said that the white man's anus will replace or has already replaced the black female vagina. That's part of it, but he left out half. The black male anus will also replace the black female vagina. Anything goes with this pink skins falsely called whites because they want to feel pure even though they are nothing but an abomination. All they do is project what they really are onto us because it makes them feel better. Anyone or everyone has seen the old comedy with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd called Trading Places. This is what has happened to melanated people all over the planet, diaspora. They feed them our energy through sex, money, sports, religion, etc., to keep the wheels of Satan turning in their favor. Mr. Fuller, what is your comment on this?
Well, they use the word Satan, so I don't know exactly what that would mean because I'm not that familiar with what is satanic. I'm not a religious scholar. The people other than the religion of white supremacy, I just deal with that in a mechanical way. Now, in a spiritual way, I don't know. I just simply say I don't know enough about that to delve into that, and I won't delve into it because it becomes too argumentative.
Yes, sir.
For me to handle. I leave that to others. I mean, who are the super religious scholars of the planet, who know about all the different types of religion and know about the Bible and the Quran and the Torah, and who are experts in all of the Hindu variations of what religion is and what religion isn't. So I don't delve into that because it's much too complicated for me.
Okay. All right.
So that comes under what I put in the code book, VGQ.
Yeah, VGQ. Okay.
Yeah, Victims Guaranteed Qualification, meaning anything dealing with racism, whatever you say as a victim of racism, can or cannot be valid. But another victim is not supposed to be judgmental about it.
Okay. Another question from the Gmail from Nick. He says this, my question for Mr. Fuller involves the topic of sexuality. I was recently talking to a young, intelligent, black gay man who is studying to become a medical doctor. He said that he is primarily attracted to white men and has resorted to dressing in drag to be more acceptable to them. He has been mocked and ridiculed by other white gay men whenever he has attempted to ask a white man out, and has spent a lot of time at the gym trying to become more physically attracted to white men. Thus far, all his attempts have failed, and this young man is now being treated for severe anxiety/depression triggered by the constant rejection. Mr. Fuller, what do you make of this young man's situation according to the code? Wasn't the system of racism, white supremacy, designed to make it easier for this black male to be with white men? Instead, it seems like he is facing more rejection and psychological torture as a black gay man.
Anything in the area of sex, like in all of the 9 areas of activity, that the white supremacists can think of to cause absolute chaos in the minds of black people, they are going to push it to the hilt. And in the area of sex, since sex is a very powerful motivating force, the second greatest motivating force among the people of the planet, next to white supremacy itself, the white supremacists naturally are going to cause a chaotic mind in all non-white people. That's their goal in the area of sex to the maximum. You know, it's always been chaos. We've never had the type of relationships in the area of sex, like in all other areas, economics, that we should have since the advent of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. I mean, nothing close to it, and getting further and further away from it. But the white supremacists intend, in 2018, to make sex, everything associated with sex, totally chaotic when it comes to the non-white people of this entire planet. I want to keep repeating that. The white supremacists intend to make everything totally chaotic, everything completely messed up, everything a total disaster when it comes to non-white people, black, brown, red, yellow, of this entire planet, as fast as they can possibly do it, because they know that if they can mess up the minds, because it all starts with the mind, if they can mess up the minds, the bodies will follow, of the non-white people when it comes to sex, then it will be much easier to control them in all the other areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, because sex, you know, everybody walks around thinking about sex. People who are not involved in sexual activity, or at least thinking about it, because they have to think about it because other people are thinking about it. I mean, I've given illustrations on this, you know, that everybody's familiar with. The little old lady down the street, that's not to, you know, say anything derogatory about her, but, you know, she probably no longer has a husband or a boyfriend and all like that, but she's still interested in sex, all right? Even if it just means pulling back the curtain and seeing who's going with who, you know, who's visiting who in the block, and sitting down at the dinner table talking about it. She's still interested in it. She's talking about what other people are doing sexually, because she's no longer having sex, but she used to, a whole bunch of it maybe, or maybe none of it. But it's all had an effect on her mind.
Yes, sir.
It affects everybody. Sex affects everybody, even when they pretend that it doesn't. What do you see now? All of the people now, when they run out of things in politics to talk about, they go after people talking about their sexual activity, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
That's correct. I mean, all the politicians and whatnot. I just heard about somebody associated in the Northwestern Hemisphere yesterday. I think it's somebody associated with law enforcement, the FBI or something.
Yeah, that was Mueller.
And somebody's saying something about his sex life.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, we can't say nothing else about him, so, hey, find out something sexual about him. Find out what he does sexually, what he has done sexually,
yes,
what he was thinking about doing sexually.
Yeah, that was,
and try to, you know, and all of the entertainers and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's all about sex. Mm-hmm. Songs are about sex. Most romantic songs are about what? About sex.
Yes.
You know, male with female. And then, so the white supremacists, though, to get back to the point, they intend to make everything chaotic, totally chaotic when it comes to the non-white people of this entire planet, when it comes to the area of sex, the eighth area of activity. I mean, see it. You see it all around you. You hear it. Yeah, I mean, it's being ramped up 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
They are carrying it over the top. I mean, they're trying to think of everything they can possibly do to cause as much, I mean, messed up, even not just mentally, but tampering with people's sex organs and whatnot. And, you know, saying you don't have, I mean, that phallus that you got, it's not supposed to be there. Somebody assigned you a phallus. I mean, you know, that phallus is, hey, and just like taking a person's arm off. I mean, yank that phallus out. When it comes to the black male, the white supremacists have always been fascinated by the white male phallus. That's why when they would lynch black males, they would sometimes do what? They would cut off its phallus and put it in what they call a mason jar and pour alcohol in there to preserve it and put it on a mantelpiece. There are recordings of this where people did this right here in the Northwestern Hemisphere just a few years ago. I mean, in the last century. They used to do it. Almost like, you know, putting a deer's head up over the mantelpiece. Mm-hmm. They would take a mason jar with the black male phallus after they had lynched him, pour some alcohol in it to preserve that phallus, and then put that mason jar, there was a jar called a mason jar, glass jar, put it on the mantelpiece and show it to the little children. I mean, you know, hey, that's the Negro, even though they didn't say Negro, they said the N-word. That's the Negro phallus. That's what we do to their sexuality. That's what we are trying to do to their sexuality. That's what should happen to their sexuality. It should become extinct, something for a museum piece. That's what it's all about. Okay. We intend to destroy it in their minds and in their bodies.
TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Fuller, and this is the time, we're a little bit over, but this is the time where we have Mr. Fuller talk about the book, which is really important. Mr. Fuller, talk about your book, please.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook, the 2016 edition. Also, on one of the other pages of that website, producejustice.com, you will also have the original textbook that some people have asked for. I don't know why that is, but some people want the original too, even though the 2016 edition, revised expanded edition, covers just about everything that's in the original. But some people say there are a few things in the original and the way it's said that they prefer that. And also there's an additional book, which I think is important. It's not absolutely necessary, called a Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. Yes. You'll see that there, too. Okay. And that is similar to a dictionary. It's not a dictionary, but it's about the use of words, how to use words in the system of white supremacy, if you are a victim of white supremacy. Okay. And what questions to ask when other people use these words, and how to use these words yourself or not use them yourself.
Okay. So anyway, before we take the phone call, producejustice.com.
Producejustice.com. Okay. Remember that.
All right.
Write it down. Producejustice.com. That's how you get these volumes.
Okay. Now, let's go to the phone call. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Can I be heard clearly?
Yes, sir. I can hear you clearly.
Great. Okay. Non-white folks have been voting for decades. And I find them to be obsessed and very belligerent when you object not to vote. Okay, the question is voting a false hope put in place by white supremacists to give strength to white supremacy and to continue a false hope of justice to non-whites? And do you vote, Mr. Fuller, and why?
Oh, yes, I vote, because here's the way I usually explain it when people ask me this, like you just did. I don't expect to get much, but it's just the same as asking for a job. We are in a prison, and this is the best way that I've been using. I've been using a prison format. That's why I recommend the movie Shawshank Redemption. Think of yourself as being in Shawshank prison, if you use the movie as a guide, or in any prison. There are a lot of black people who have been in what you call greater confinement, what the textbook calls greater confinement, which is a prison. But the white supremacists have made a prison of the entire planet for everybody who is classified as non-white. That's how they look at it, and that's how they conduct themselves. And I was born in prison called the planet Earth, because the entire planet Earth, when it comes to my color, is a prison, because the white supremacists have made it so. So when you're in a prison, to get to your point and answer your question, what do? You just have to go along with the prison program. So looking at another prisoner and criticizing that prisoner for, asking the warden for a little bit more cornbread than they got yesterday for lunch before they get back out there and lift that barge and tote that bale, I mean, in this prison, called the system of white supremacy. That's the name of the prison. So you always kowtow to your prison masters in every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So voting is what you call politics, but prison politics is anything that you're going to get it from the warden, because the warden has got everything. You don't have nothing. So if the warden says, well, we're going to pull some lottery tickets tomorrow, just like they did in Shawshank when they said, it's going to be spring, and some of you guys want to work outside the walls, but we can't have everybody working outside the walls, so we're going to let a few people work outside the walls. So, because they're going to be working on the roofs of the prison, tarring the roof. See, so they pull lotteries to do that. Well, the voting system is just about the same thing. So you just say, well, if I don't join in, I might not get nothing, but I would like to be outside for a little while. They're not going to let everybody be outside, but they might let me be outside. So, if I can, since they're making the offer, I'll participate. It's the prison rules, and none of the prison rules, are just. It's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be getting punished, but you get a little bit more cornbread or a little bit more time outside the walls if you can. That's all the voting is.
Did that answer your question, caller?
Yes.
Yeah, you just get a little bit more than, you try to get a little bit more than you had yesterday. But don't look to be out. Don't look for voting to get rid of white supremacy. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Just to keep it simple, should we vote? Well,
yes, sir, if you can get a little bit more. Like I said, that's why I went around making that lottery. See, voting is a lottery. So you are in a prison. So every now and then they say, we're going to have we're going to paint some cells. But we're not going to paint them all at the same time. So we're going to draw some lottery tickets. And the first people who draw the best lottery, the voting, are going to get their cells painted first. So you say, but we're going to let everybody participate. So you just say, okay, well, they're going to paint the cells. My cell does need painting. It smells awful in here, all right, and it's drab in here. So, I'll participate in the lottery. That's all it is. But don't expect to get out of prison, okay? No, that's not going to happen. This is prison. We're just painting your cell.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you, caller.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Yes.
All righty. Here, as we get down to the remaining subject, and this may go over because we're coming up against a time change here. or the next hour. This comes from Victor. He says, Mr. Fuller, how are non-white people created into monsters and monstrosities under the global prison system of white supremacy racism, and how do non-white people produce constructive logic through political mathematics?
Oh, by having a code in answer to the last question, and the white supremacists make monsters and monstrosities out of people. What are monsters and monstrosities? They're something that shouldn't exist. So they make us into things that shouldn't exist. Now, what's a monster? Okay, we got Halloween here. A monster is a very destructive organism. The white supremacists take black males right from the crib. I mean, those little babies, you've seen babies in a crib. You were a baby in a crib. You have sisters and brothers, maybe, some of us, that were babies in a crib. They don't know anything. They're just here, sent here by a creator, okay, or creators in the minds of some people, all right, but they are here. Now, the white supremacists, they will look at a baby of color and say, I'm going to make an absolute monster out of this creature. And 16 or 17 years after that baby gets out of that crib, what is that baby doing now that it has gotten up some size? It's running around shooting people, killing people that were babies just like them, for fun and for glory. Now, how did this happen? Because the white supremacists put it in their minds to do that.
Okay.
They glorified death and destruction.
Got to leave it there, but we'll pick that up in the second half of the program. TalkTainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thank you for the pleasure of your time. We'll see you next hour.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and you are listening to the program via TalkTainmentRadio.com. As a matter of fact, for those that don't, you can go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click Listen Live and hear the program live right there, and hit the like and the subscribe button. You can also call in at 1-877-932-9766. You can do that. You can also go to the YouTube channel and type in the word Talktainment, and then scroll down to the second section where it says radio, hit radio, and then scroll down to and type in Talktainment number 2, and you're there. Subscribe and like that button also. You can Gmail me at 7MrBobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and also Facebook.com/Talktainment, and you are there. Today's programming is title is Pre-Existing Conditions of Racism in the System of White Supremacy Racism, and Mr. Fuller has talked about that in the first hour, so you can go back and hear that. The first hour being Wednesday, the 31st of October, 2018. A special announcement here. Next week, November the 7th, after the elections, there will be no live show. Let me repeat that. There will be no live show. However, Mr. Fuller still will be on for 2 hours. It will be a previous show. I don't know what show it'll be, but it'll be a previous show. But no live show on the 7th of November, and we will resume the show on the 14th. Yes, the 14th will be the next live show. Yeah, but this hour or these 2 hours are blocked off for the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. If you have any questions, comments, or VGQ, call in 1-877-932-9766. If you Gmail me, chances are I will not get to the Gmails. We are just stacked up, and staff just shoots me one whenever we can get it through. Calls are first. Gmails are, well, they're not first. I'll just put it that way. Okay, let's see. Pre-existing condition of racism in the system of white supremacy racism. We ended up talking about political mathematics. Somebody said, what is political mathematics in your opinion, Mr. Fuller? Why is hypocrisy the greatest sin? And how do the white supremacists cause us all to be hypocrites?
Oh, well, I'll just take one question at a time.
Okay.
I can't remember.
What is political mathematics?
Political mathematics?
Yes, sir.
Political mathematics is just like mathematics, period. I mean, mathematics in economics, in education, in any area of activity. Sexual mathematics, cause and effect. That's all mathematics is. Cause and effect. And what is the effect? Constructive and non-constructive. Everything has a cause. And when you say everything has a cause, say like if you turn the ignition in your car, that's a cause of the engine starting, okay? And that's all the effect is that the engine starts running because there's a connection with the wires, I mean, in your ignition and whatnot, and the engine that's designed to do just that. When you turn that key, then you hear the engine start because you caused it. It didn't happen before you turned the key, and then the effect was the engine started. Cause and effect. That is mathematics. And there's political mathematics is cause and effect between people. You say something to a person, speech, and then action, and the person will respond to what you said. And hopefully, what you say is always constructive. That's where codification comes in. That's why we need a code. Everything that you say to a person is supposed to have what? A constructive effect. When you speak, that's the cause. You're using words. That's the tools. That's the ignition, okay, in the car. All right? Now, the effect is supposed to be constructive. The white supremacists teach black people to say things, particularly to each other, that have a non-constructive effect. This is why black people in the northwestern hemisphere and in other parts of the world, I guess, but the white supremacists, they plant that seed and they set that type of chain reaction up so that anything that a black person says to another black person is supposed to be hostile. And that's what you look at every day in the northwestern hemisphere. You can almost feel the hostility when black people come around each other. Now, we do make a great big effort to counteract that by the hugs. Black people are the huggingest people in the world. We hug. We do a lot of hugging and high-fiving. I mean, handshaking. I mean, and smiling and laughing. I mean, we make sure that everybody can hear us 2 blocks away when we laugh. We are forcing it. See, I mean, we're trying to force against what is against us. We're not even conscious of it. We've been doing it for so long. I mean, the laughing Negro, all right? But we're laughing because we know nothing is funny. It's just the opposite. But we're trying to cover it up by saying, hey, maybe if I laugh loud, all this misery will go away.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Mr. Fuller, just in your opinion, since you mentioned the word laughing, could it be suspected that when you see in advertisements for, let's say, Aunt Jemima or Uncle Ben's rice in particular, they were smiling, would that be the reason? Could be a reason that they are smiling?
Oh, people used to talk about it. Black people used to talk about it in the old days. Yes, the answer is yes. Aunt Jemima, the smiling Aunt Jemima. Yes. You know, and when Aunt Jemima frowns, it's because, you know, just like in the movie Gone with the Wind, Miss Scarlet. Now, here's a black woman talking to a white woman, a black female talking to a white woman, a black slave talking to a white woman, the master of the house, all right, the mistress of the house, all right, but who is a slave master? Miss Scarlet. And she said, now, Miss Scarlet, don't you go out here acting, you know, you got to act like a lady, you know, and my job is to see to it that you is a lady, all right? I'm almost fixing to have a heart attack. I mean, that you just eating too much. You putting on too much weight. Now, the lady who played in the movie Gone with the Wind, she was way overweight according to today's standards. All right? But she was seeing to it that Miss Scarlet didn't get like she was. Okay? All right for me to look like this. It's all right for me to be in poor health, all right? It's all right for me to serve you all the best food, and then I take the leavings, okay? But I got to see to it, under the system of white supremacy, that, you know, this frown on my face, this exasperation, I mean, this worry that I have. When I go to sleep at night, I got to worry about you, Miss Scarlet, because you the mistress of the house. I mean, you know, you's the white lady in here. And I'm the black nobody, and you know, and hey, I gotta glorify this and let you know that I'm glorifying it, and you know, and I'm the one's got to feel bad. You ain't never supposed to feel bad about nothing. I'm supposed to feel bad about everything. I ain't even got no man. I ain't got nothing. I just devote my entire life to running behind you, making sure that your dress is on right, and that your hair is on right, and that you know how to act when the gentlemen come around, and to tell you even be your mentor as far as giving you advice on how to handle these other Mr. Rhett Butler coming in here with his self, and you know, and he you know, and making him act like a gentleman. I mean, he's a white man, just like you're a white woman. Y'all supposed to act white. Don't act like me. You know, I ain't nobody.
As you were speaking, we have it on YouTube. You almost, I don't know if you have it on, but we have it on YouTube here, the exact scene that you just described. I mean, the woman, the black woman was getting ready to go out the room. I don't know what the actress's name is, but she had to get the white lady together. I'm looking at it right now. Just as you were saying that, giving that example of that, I found that ironic. She's making the white woman look good.
Oh, hey, that's the assignment in the system of white supremacy of every non-white person. Hey, you glorify Andrew Jackson. I mean, you know, hey, put him up on a pedestal in the center of the city.
Yes.
I mean, a slave owner. Glorify your slave owner. Hey, you know, that's my master. Don't y'all say nothing about my master. Don't y'all say nothing about my master. You're going to make me cry. And then, you know, and after I get through crying, I might get mad. And I'll hurt you.
Yes.
Don't you say nothing about my master.
That's exactly how they talk. Wow.
We were trained that way.
Yes, sir.
You know, you can train people just like you can train animals.
Yes.
All right? And what do the white supremacists say that we are? Animals.
Mm-hmm.
What did a prominent person just recently call a black female that was in the White House? A dog.
Yeah, or a monkey.
And got black people running around calling themselves dogs.
Yeah, and
that's
got
my dog.
Yeah, I've heard that. And like the governor in Florida, several people have referred to him as being a monkey. It's crazy.
Yes,
yeah.
right. Anything but a person.
Yeah.
That thing coming down the street, look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it. It don't even look like a person. I mean, hey, we're throwing that over it.
Wow.
Talking about any black person.
Yes.
That thing coming down the street. I mean, hey, it ain't even an animal. We like animals, but we don't know what that thing is. All right.
Wow. All righty. Okay, that came from Victor. We're trying to effort this phone call in here to see what's happening here, and we will. Let's go. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics. And here's one that I am going to share with you. Many of you are getting into that area of seniorship. So we have a program here at Talktainment Radio called Senior Agenda, hosted by Lisa Stockdale. And all the information concerning seniors, discounts on things, where to go, where to eat, just all things that pertain to, let's say, those of us who happen to be over 60, if that's it, if that is classified as a senior. But it's an excellent program, and you should tune in to get the latest information, things you don't know, discounts. You know, since you're on basically a fixed income now, you know, you need to know where the discounts is. Trust me, I use them quite frequently. Anyway, you can go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on programs for the scheduled times, and all the latest information. That is from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. We have been discussing the term that has been in the news so much today. It's an insurance term called pre-existing conditions. But what we did is talked about the pre-existing condition of racism in the system of white supremacy racism. And that's what we've been addressing. We have a caller on the line, so let's go to the call. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your call.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please, sir.
All right, great. I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller. Well, first, let me start off here. There's a movie that recently just came out. I just wanted to let you guys know about it.
Okay.
It's called The Hate You Give, and it's a modern movie about police shootings. I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay, The Hate You Give.
The Hate You Give.
Okay, all right.
And that's playing now. But the question that I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller is this. Online, you're getting a lot of cases where black people are just doing stuff, going about their regular day, and white people are calling the police on them. And this is turning into almost an everyday thing. So I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller, is this something old and we're just seeing it every day because of cell phones and people can post it on social media? Myself personally, I mean, if that was to happen to me, let's say if I was out and I was doing whatever and a white person called the police on me, I think the logical thing to do is just simply just get away from that white person, you know? That's what I would do. I find myself not even really wanting to be too close to them. Let's just say if I'm walking past cars in the parking lot, I try to get as far away as possible because I don't know if, you know, what they're thinking, if they think I'm a robber or what, you know. Not saying I don't interact with them, but, you know, when I'm walking, I make sure I keep my distance. And I just wanted to ask, am I thinking wrong in that way, or what's your thoughts on all of this?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
In answer to the question here again, in order to keep it simple, always think of yourself as a prisoner of war.
Right.
All right? And your prison uniform is your skin color. That's your prison uniform. All right? In the system of white supremacy. You're already captured. They're not trying to capture you. You were captured before you were born. You were born in prison. Think of yourself as being a born prisoner of war. So you act accordingly. That's why I keep using that movie, Shawshank Redemption, as an example. Think of yourself every day as being a prisoner of war, and you act the way that a prisoner of war. See, once you start thinking that you're a free person and all like that, you're already in danger. You're putting yourself in danger. A lot of, particularly younger black people, are not told this. So therefore, they just walk around saying, "Hey, I'm a man. I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be respected and all like that." No, you're not. You're in a system of white supremacy. And, I mean, you not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You have to see it that way. Why? Because the people that run this world see you that way, whether you see yourself that way or not. And
yes.
That is your actual status, all right? So if I'm walking through what they call a mostly white neighborhood, which is not supposed to be no such thing.
Exactly.
A white neighborhood, that's not even supposed to exist
in
a correct society. A white neighborhood? What are you talking about? A white neighborhood? What is a white neighborhood? Well, if you don't know that, I mean, hey, then you need to get educated.
Yeah.
All right?
Yes.
You don't understand racism. But if I'm walking through what is called that, and what everybody says, I mean, black people say it, white neighborhood, black neighborhood, without even thinking. What are you saying? These things are not even supposed to exist.
Right.
A neighborhood is like Mr. Rogers. Everybody's a neighbor. The whole world is a neighborhood. What are you talking about? Oh, no, it ain't quite like that. Why? Because it ain't quite like that. So when you're walking through, if I'm walking through the area, what? Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee.
Yes.
I mean, if a white person comes out of their house and say to me from their doorstep, "Hey, you. Hey, you, I'm talking to you over there. Where are you going?" I'll stop. And I'll say, "I'm taking care of business." I'll answer the question. "What business? You ain't got no business over here." Now, this might actually happen. I expect it to happen at any time, And I'll address. See, I address exactly what the person is saying. That's the code way. Pay attention to exactly what the person is saying. The person is making a statement. "I don't have any business over here." Okay? Now, I have a question. Sir, where am I supposed to be going? Where am I supposed to conduct business? And wait for his answer. See, I'm not going to raise my voice or nothing. I'm going to answer. I'm going to address what he's talking about. And since I don't know what he's talking about, I have to ask. Because I'm going to get this straight from him. See, it ain't going to be no argument. This is going to be a conversation. Because that's what the code teaches me.
Okay.
Hey, don't argue with anybody.
Right.
Have a conversation, but don't argue.
Okay.
All right?
Listen.
And if he comes down off the porch and want to follow it up, I'm not going to start calling them names or something like that. You ain't got no business telling me nothing, blah, blah. I don't go, I'm going to address what he's saying.
Okay.
And let him tell me, all right, everything that I'm supposed to be doing and why.
Okay.
Okay? And then in the meantime, if he's acting belligerent, I'll say, "Well, sir, maybe this thing is going to the extent, well, we need a third party or two." So then I will get on my cell phone, if I got one, and call the law enforcement officers and see what they have to say about this whole scenario, since we are having a civil conversation here.
Gotcha.
All right?
Gotcha.
And let them determine where it goes from there,
alrighty,
whomever they may be. Let's take it step by step.
Step by step. Okay, there are three things that I need to address. Let's see if we can get them in here. First of all, there is a video out showing that this black man had gotten out of his car or something, and he was standing, and this old white woman came up to him and had was having a conversation, I guess, was telling him that he didn't have a right to be here and was really calling him a whole bunch of names. And the black guy was just standing there and listening. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Fuller, she spits on him. I mean, it was nasty. And he just plowed her, knocked her down. I mean, if she had any sense, he knocked it out of her. My question is this. You said don't fuss. I mean, yeah, well, you said that too. But you said at no time should a man put his hands on a woman. Now, I believe that reference was into marriage. But this man had gotten out of his car and was standing up, and this white woman, I guess, did not want him in the parking garage or whatever. And she spit on him. Now, that's assault right there. But the man, to me, looked like he was defending himself, so he swung, and I mean, he really socked her and knocked her down. In your opinion, was this man correct in his stance?
Well, I can't judge what he should or should not have done.
Then what would you say about that?
According to what he did.
Okay.
I'll just go according to what I would have done according to the code.
Okay, you got spit on.
Yeah, I got spit on.
Okay. Now what you going to do about it?
I remember one thing, like I started off this conversation about this particular segment. What did I say a while ago? I'm in prison. My prison uniform says I'm a prisoner.
Your skin.
And this was a white woman?
Yeah, white woman. She spit on him.
The white woman, I look up on her as a possible, what does the code say? Suspected white supremacist, which means she's a prison master.
Okay.
So the prison master spits on a prisoner. That's how I'm looking at it. So I'm calling the rest of the prison masters. That's who I'm going to call. That's all. There ain't nobody else I can call. Because if I hit one of those prison guards, which is what I'm looking at her as being, all right, now what does that mean in a prison? Now, the prison guard spit on me, and I unloaded on that prison guard.
Yes.
Now, what I'm telling that prison guard, I got equal power to you. But see, in the system of white supremacy, that ain't true.
Okay, I got you.
All right?
I got you. Okay.
So I'm calling the rest of the prison guards and just tell what happened.
Okay, that's what Neely Fuller would do.
That's what Neely Fuller is going to do.
Okay.
Hey, because I know what's going to happen if I hit her.
Okay,
I
got
know
you.
which way that's going to go.
Okay, now
in the system of white supremacy, I know which way that's going to go.
Exactly. Okay, now here's the second thing. In Dallas, Texas, recently, a young black prominent football player was killed by a Dallas police officer, a little town within the suburb of Dallas. Killed him, shot him 6 times. What had happened was there was a party, and I guess the party had gotten out of hand, and a white person called the Dallas police, and they came over there and broke the party up. Well, as they had broken it up, and they had searched the house, and there was no drugs or alcohol or anything in there, they heard gunshots. And so, you know, when you hear gunshots, people are fleeing. So these boys, there were 6 of them, got in this black car and were proceeding to go away. The officers came out and saw the black car and fired into the car and killed this prominent football player. Well, come to find out that that car was not involved in the shooting whatsoever. They searched the car, didn't find no drugs, no narcotics or anything, but the black guy was shot, and they had body cameras on there. And it looked like he was going to get away with it, except that his partner had a body cam and showed what happened. The officer that did the shooting said that the black people in the car tried to run over him, but the video showed that they didn't even come close to him and they were getting away. Now, here's the thing about it. They did break the code about don't fuss, don't fight, and don't flee, because they started to flee, and that gave the white guy, the white police officer or race soldier, the opportunity to shoot in the car that killed him. And if it wasn't for the other officer who had who witnessed it, and they asked him what happened, and he said that the account that the police officer gave was not true, he would have got away with it. But they did convict him 15 years, for killing that. But it was a shame that they didn't follow code. What is your response to that?
Oh, well, see, here again, we are in prison. So when prison guards show up, if they are white supremacists, I mean, they are the prison guards. I'm not saying that that's what they are, but if they are white supremacists, they show up with the intent of putting down a disturbance in the prison. And you look at it like that, which means anybody might get hurt. I mean, you see, so you throw up your hands or whatever you got to do to make sure in your prison uniform that you ain't one of the people that's going to get hurt. Because somebody going to get hurt. It's a prison riot going on. All right? That's the way the prison guards show up. It's a disturbance down in cell block C. Go down there and put it down any way that you can. I mean, hey, it ain't supposed to be no disturbances. They don't know who's causing the disturbance, and they don't care. Okay? So you keep that in mind. This is not a civil situation. Okay?
Yes.
We are prisoners of war. Anybody that knows anything looks at movies about prisoners of war. I mean, you got a disturbance in one of them barracks down there, and you a prisoner of war, and you in the barracks. You can expect machine guns to open up on that entire barracks.
Yes. Okay.
Put down that prison rebellion.
All righty.
I mean, it might hit anybody.
Right.
Expect that. Expect that. Expect that, folks.
Okay. And
because you are wearing a prison uniform. If you are a person of color on this planet in the system of white supremacy, unquote.
Unquote.
Your prison uniform.
Right.
It ain't personal, it's business.
Okay. And
your uniform, your skin color is your prison uniform.
And the final thing before we go
you have already been convicted. Convicted of what? Of being the incorrect color in a world in which color is supposed to be punished when it's in the skin of a person.
And the final thing before we go to break, the man that you were referring to earlier, that they were trying to trump up charges against him was Robert Mueller. Somebody said that he, 40 years ago or something, had some sexual improprieties, and they investigated it, and he turned it over to the FBI to find out that whoever made that statements, and I forgot the name of the man who did that information was coming from the people who support Trump to throw people off from voting and bring disgrace upon Mr. Mueller, but they found that this was a hoax supplied by the usual suspects that do stuff like that, the white supremacists. Anyway, I thought that would back up your story. Okay, before we go to break, talktainmentradio.com. Now, let's go to the phone calls. Okay, caller, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. I wanted to address some actions that happened in our community the last week. We've had white supremacists that have did terrible terroristic acts. They killed two non-white people at Kroger, two elderly non-white people. One white supremacist did that. Another white supremacist sent bombs. Some of those victims were non-white people. Another white supremacist walked into a Jewish synagogue in Philadelphia and killed, I think, 11 people, shot some police, was arrested peacefully. My question to Mr. Fuller is, I know he said several times that, we should expect violence, we should expect death, and those are things that come along with the system of white supremacy. And I know he doesn't talk about the war section on the air. I know you don't talk about maximum emergency compensatory action. But my question is, should we begin to talk about maximum emergency compensatory action over the air and in public as we are being attacked by these white supremacists so outright?
Well, we could, but I don't think it would have the effect. See, everything is about cause and effect. And a part of the compensatory code is anything that you say, you should be able to measure the effect before you say it. So I concluded some years ago in the ninth area of activity under war, counter-war. See, the white supremacist system is a form of war. When you say white supremacy, you're talking about war. So that's why that ninth area of activity, as in the code book, is war. The ninth area of activity is war / counter-war. Now, counter-war is what you do in a war as prisoners of war. How do you destroy the prison, called the system of white supremacy, and replace it with the system of justice? Now, if you're going to use counter-violence, because war is violence, now, non-white people should not be warriors. We should be counter-warriors. But in order to counter war, you have to use counter-violence.
Excuse me, Mr. Fuller. Caller, could you turn your radio down because we are getting feedback in here? So if you cut your radio down, then we can... Okay. Okay, continue, Mr. Fuller.
Yes. Now, but if you discuss it over the air, see, you're talking about counter-violence and how to go about doing it and when and under what circumstances. These guidelines are in the counter-war section because you're dealing with violent people. What do you do about violent people, people who use direct violence? Now, the system of white supremacy is a violent system. But also, you have two types of violence. You have direct and indirect. They're committing violence just by having made us prisoners of war. That was an act of violence from the very first black person that was put in captivity and made a prisoner of war. That was done through direct violence. So they sustain this direct violence on an ongoing basis in order to keep the prison going. Now, but anyone who decides to use counter-violence, it must be precision work. Now, when you say precision work, you can't talk about it loosely. That's an answer to your question. And it's not, once we start discussing something like that on the airwaves, like I said, that's why I put in a book. All of that counter-war, maximum emergency compensatory action, and all of that is in counter-war. That's a compensatory action. That's taking direct action, meaning using deadly force against the white supremacists. You can't talk about that loosely. If you do that, like on a program, then you get chaos, which is what you don't want. Everything has to be precision in counter-racist science, particularly when you start talking about making people dead. Causing people to be dead is serious business. The white supremacists make fun of it and have all the black people making fun of it. We kill people like that's nothing at all. I mean, where you find a black neighborhood in so-called in the northwestern hemisphere, it's just killing. You pick up and say, Willie Jackson was killed over on such and such a street last night, age 20. I mean, no suspects have been picked up. I mean, he was shot 6 times. I mean, we just take that as routine. We take that as routine. I mean, turn to the sports page. That ain't no news. I mean, Willie Jackson got killed, so what? That's black people killing black people, all right? The white supremacists have turned us into that type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we are that type of people. We are that type of people. We are the type of people that nobody with correct intentions should ever want to be around with that type of behavior.
Yes,
but they have made us into that. Now, at some point, we've got to say, nobody's supposed to be killing anybody for any reason.
Right.
You're supposed to talk things out, all right? But the white supremacists will not allow that to happen. They keep feeding this. So in the 9th area of activity, the individual person should make that choice of when to be counter-violent. That's when it gets to. And that has to be very detailed. You can't talk about it loosely. That's why, in answer to your question, I'm not talking about it. I'm not going to ever talk about it on the air. That 9th area of activity. You can go to the book and see what it says and take it for what it's worth. But what I have written in that book, hey, you've got to deal with violence with counter-violence. Everybody understands that. That's why you have armies and all like that. That's why you send soldiers to borders, they say, and all like that, and across borders. Of course, in the white supremacists' military strategy, it ain't no such thing as borders. I mean,
Right.
Ain't nobody got no borders for them.
Mm-hmm.
They go where they please. It's just non-white people who have borders.
All righty, let's hit this call before we go to your book. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Mr. Fuller, I think you explained Halloween and the tradition of it before, but I'd like you to recap it because it is Halloween. What is your views on Halloween? Is it a sick tradition? And how does it relate? What's a codified response to the tradition of Halloween?
The codified response is don't participate. mean, if asked, you can say what you think about it, like I'm being asked. But look at it. Halloween. Who dreamed that up? I mean, I heard a TV host the other day say she enjoys scaring people. Well, it's enough going on every day among people of this planet, particularly on the system of white supremacy, to scare you to death. You don't have to manufacture no special day to scare somebody. You step outside your door, you're supposed to be scared at midnight. That's why you got 4 locks on the door. You're scared. Scared of what? Somebody coming in where you are. If you don't have a lock on the door, and whoever is coming is not coming to be nice to you. That's why you have locks on every door. In a world the way it ought to be, just like in that song, I got plenty of nothing, nothing is plenty for me. In that song it says, I got no lock on the door. That's no way to be. They can steal the rug off the floor. That's okay with me. But see, nobody should be trying to steal the rug off of anybody's floor. There have been little things, where black people kind of left, where the white supremacists wasn't making thieves out of us all the time, full time, like they do now, and rob us like they do now. They steady do that. Teach us this, glorify it, put it in the movies and whatnot. Thieves, robbers, killers, whatnot. But people can remember at a time when in some little places where the white supremacists didn't come around too much, nobody even hooked a screen door. I have been in situations like that myself. You'd go to town and leave the screen door unlocked and the door locked, unlocked.
Not no more.
Yeah, right. Because everybody kind of knew everybody. Everybody kind of got along and to a degree. There were some fights and whatnot, but nobody broke in nobody's house. Not that there was much to steal anyway. Just, whatever you were going to get, you already had. So, which was a whole lot of nothing, just like the song said, in little farming situations. But there are some elderly people that remember that time. When you didn't, you could open a door. You didn't have fans and air conditioning. So in the summertime, you just open the door. You can't have no door open now. Nowhere. You got to run to get to your door and look around you while you're trying to get there, hoping that you don't die before you get the key in the door. That's the way it is now in most cities where you have black people, and we've been trained that way. All right? So Halloween, yes, that's what that's all about, scaring people. We shouldn't be in
the death culture.
Hello?
Yes, it seems like it promotes a death culture, like it promotes
a death. What do you see on Halloween? You see skulls, dead people. You see movies about walking dead. Walking dead. They ain't dead. They come back, and going to come back not to be nice to you. The dead don't come back to be nice, not in Halloween. They rise up out of the grave, and come looking for you to suck your blood. Call them vampires. And you teach little children this. Teach them to be scared of what? Dark and orange, black and orange. What are the colors of Halloween? Think about it. Orange jumpsuits, black skin. Oh, boogeyman. Yeah. White supremacist doctrine.
That's all it
Witches.
is.
All right. Dressed in what? Black.
Black.
All right. Hoodlum identity. Black. Black mask. Black mask. All right.
Boy,
hoods.
Yeah.
Boys in the hood. Coming to get you. Oh, shoot them. Trick or treat. Robbery by intimidation. That's what that is. Knock on the door. Trick or treat. If you don't give me something bad going to happen to you. So you're teaching that at a young age.
Yes.
Think about it, folks. Chocolate candy. Oh. I'll trade, if you treat me nice, you can give me some chocolate candy. Give me some of your slaves, all right? And, and everything will be all right. Slave trading, chocolate. Like Jeffrey Dahmer worked in a chocolate factory. That's another story, all right? And going around at night killing chocolate-covered people.
And eating them.
All right? And eating them, okay? That's what vampires do, okay? Bloody daggers and hatchets. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
All the Halloween associated with what? White supremacist doctrine.
And killing people.
And killing people.
Okay, TalkTameItRadio.com. Man, that was deep. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who just dropped some science. Anyway, it is at this time that we have designated for Mr. Fuller to talk about his book. Mr. Fuller, your book.
You can get the basic textbook and the additional, which is just an addition to the basic book, by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And that's the website. I named that website because that's what we're supposed to be trying to produce a product called justice. And the textbook for victims of white supremacy is supposed to be, I wrote it with the intention of trying to help to do that. It's not just, we're not trying to just beat up on white people. That's not beating up on anybody. That shouldn't be our goal. That's what the white supremacists do. Look for somebody to beat up on. They glorify violence, all right? We're supposed to be a people who are supposed to be trying to produce a universal man and a universal woman. I mean, in perfect harmony with each other and enjoying it, enjoying everything. Nobody having any animosity of any kind. A lot of people say, well, you're talking about utopia, Fuller. Well, why not? Because that's what people are really talking about anyhow. When you talk about peace, you're talking about an absence of violence. You're talking about an absence of anybody trying to do somebody some harm. So the textbook for victims of white supremacy, if you go to producejustice.com and order it, that's what it's really about. You get rid of racism because you're not going to have justice and racism on the same planet at the same time. It's impossible. Can't be done. So you have to get rid of racism. And it's addressed to the individual victims of racism, which are the non-white people of this planet. We are the victims of white supremacy. You replace white supremacy with justice. That's what you're supposed to be trying to replace it with. And it is addressed to the individual person, what he or she can do on an everyday basis that will lead to this. Now, this is a concept. It's not a guarantee because I'm saying it has never been done. No one has ever rid the world of racism. But I think this is the missing link. This is the start of it.
Okay.
The code book. Go to producejustice.com.
All righty. Let's see here. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you're on with Mr. Neely Fuller.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hi. I would like to know, what do you do on a daily basis when you have a partner or wife who do not believe there is white supremacy, and you watch shows that where black people act ratchet?
You have a partner, I mean a care mate, like a spouse or a girlfriend or something?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, you talk to them the same way you talk to all people. You talk to them about the things that they want to talk about, if they're going to talk to you at all. You're talking about talk, all right, and beliefs. So they can just tell you under VGQ, they can tell you what they believe. There are a lot of people who say racism doesn't even exist, okay? Suppose the person tells you that. So under the code, what does the code say? What's your response? You just say, okay, so that's your position? That's your position. I'm not trying to give you a problem that you say you don't have. See, racism is about, fighting racism is about solving the major problem on earth. But there are a lot of black people who say, I don't have no race problem. What are these fools doing going around talking about this? I've had people say that, you know. I've heard people say that. In what I call, you might call a decent conversation, many people have said that to me.
Yes.
And I tell them, according to the code, I say, oh, well then, if you don't have a problem, I'm not supposed to be running around here trying to give you a problem you don't have. All right? So that's the end of that. So we'll just talk about something else. What do you want to talk about? That's my question. You want to talk about racism? What do you want to talk about? And I'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. But it's been my experience that at some point, the person will start talking about, well, you know, I got fired. See, now these are people, and I'm going to tell you about my own personal experiences. Some people who have told me that racism didn't exist, or if it does exist, it doesn't bother them. So I say, well, if it's not bothering you under the VGQ, then you don't bother something that's not bothering you. Okay? Don't worry about it. If you can get by racism, more power to you, and show me how to do it, because that's what I'm trying to get by. That's my position. Now, but some people that I have talked to down through the years, after saying they ain't going to talk about racism, will come to me talking about racism. They pull, I want to talk to you. I say, about what? Well, you know, I got this problem on my job, and here we go. I say, what problem? And it winds up being a race problem. Now they're ready to talk. That's the best time to talk to people, when they're ready to talk. And that's talking to anybody, a care mate, a spouse, a girlfriend, so-called, boyfriend, what call. Yeah, when they're ready to talk about racism, then they're ready. That's when you unload the whole thing. All right, if you want to talk about it, let's get serious. Let's talk about it. Now, if you don't want to talk about it, we'll just go back to talking about parties and whatever else you want to talk about. All right? But I don't have a whole lot to say about parties, except if I go to a meeting, it's got to be about something serious. Because part of the code is black people are not supposed to be partying no way. You don't party in a prison.
I've never seen it. Okay. All right, caller, is that it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Fuller, in the remaining 4 minutes, a question here. This person, Victor, says, I'm studying what the system of white supremacy is and how it works by reading your book. Mr. Fuller, you've stated many times that you cannot make sense of an insane system. What do you mean?
Oh, don't try to make sense out of the system of white supremacy. That's what people do when they're saying, why did they shoot that boy? You're trying to make sense out of something that's not even designed to make sense. They shot that black guy because that's what you do in the system of white supremacy. You shoot black people. Black people are something that's supposed to be dead. That's why they even use the word Negro. It's associated with the word what? Necrology, the study of the dead, walking dead. Kill them. What's that thing? Well, it's moving around. Kill it. That's a monster. You kill monsters. Halloween. You know, duh.
That's a good one. Necrology, yes.
Necrology. Look up the word necrology. Just necro. Negro. Kill it. Kill it.
Wow.
Even if you're a Negro yourself, kill it. Kill yourself. My goodness.
Wow.
Get the heck out of here. You ain't supposed to be here. Where'd that thing come from? Creatures from the Black Lagoon. Black creatures from the Black Lagoon. Oh, Halloween. Permanently.
Necrology. Woo! Wow.
Here's the definition of necrology. Formal. An obituary notice.
An obituary? Yeah.
An obituary.
Yeah, it said necrology.
I don't know if I answered the question or not. Sometimes I get off and don't answer the question.
Well,
that's a no-no.
Yeah, basically you were correct because necrology, as I just Googled it, said an obituary notice or a list of death.
Oh, yes. And what do black people like more than they like anything? Other than, just having what you call fun. We like funerals. Black people show up at funerals when they don't show up nowhere else in a church. They ain't never been in a church, but they'll be there for a funeral. We are death oriented. We like death. We've been trained that way.
See, this is what I love about this program, because even I still learning, associating Negro with, I've never done that in all my life, but then I'm looking it up right now, and here it is. Here it is right here. The real definition of
a Negro is supposed to be dead. I mean, he's not supposed to be breathing. He's supposed to be stretched out on a pavement with some brand new sneakers on. I mean, ready to be buried. That's a Negro. That's a black person. Supposed to be dead. And we are appalled when, hey, they just killing black people. They just killing. You a Negro. You're supposed to be dead. According to whom? The white supremacists. That's who.
I'm looking
at the people that taught us to worship death.
Well,
they taught us to worship death.
Wow. Well, we've come to the end of a program which I really don't want to end, but we have to. Thank you for the pleasure of your time. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. Oh, man, this is just outstanding. Thank you. We'll see you, I think, November the 14th? Yeah, then. No live show next week, but Mr. Fuller will be on via past shows. Thank you for listening.